In today's video, we're going to be talking about your swing centers and how they are probably the biggest dictator of where your club path goes. Let's dive into it. When we're talking about swing centers, we're talking about two parts of the body. And we're talking about sternum and we're talking about pelvis. So middle of pelvis, middle of sternum. Those are our two swing centers. The pelvis is the lower and the sternum is the upper. We're going to look at the two ends of the spectrum here. We're going to look at when the lower swing center gets behind the upper swing center to the top of the swing. And we're also going to look at how the lower swing center gets ahead of the upper swing center to the top and how that changes the path, and then what you can do to create the swing centers that you need for the shot shape that you want. So let's show you when the upper center is in front of the lower center, what that would do, right? So if I make a practice backswing where I get my lower center behind my upper, so here, you're going to see a couple of things. Obviously, you can see belt buckle is behind the sternum, so that is that lower half behind the upper half. If you're looking then down the line, you can see that the hands have probably gone a little bit higher than we'd like to see. Probably haven't accessed that much hip rotation, so the depth of the swing isn't there. Now that's going to then create a downswing that works probably a little bit more lead shoulder working down and around first. And if we're looking again down the line, the club's probably working quite far across our body, and that will create a fade to a slice shape. I've shown you an extreme end of the scale there. It doesn't have to be that bad, but if you're going to create those sort of centers, that's the way that the club path is going to move. So if we then show you a golf swing where the lower gets behind the upper, you will see the shape of shot that you're going to get from that. So lower moves behind upper. You're going to see that sort of shape, and you can see club path goes heavily minus, angle attack gets more and more ahead of the golf ball because our swing direction is working really hard to the left. So obviously I've showed you an extreme there, but that is a potential thing that can happen. I had a client in the other day that was doing exactly that. Also from this sort of shape, because the angle attack and the low point gets so far ahead, and where the swing centers are working, because the club works so far outside the ball and the body's so far ahead, you might even see some shots that come out the hosel with that style of backswing. So we then show you the opposite end of the scale where the sternum gets behind the hips. You probably see a quite different style of shot shape, okay? So if we do that where sternum gets behind the hips and it's somewhere over here, we're going to see quite level shoulders right now. We're going to see maxed out probably any rotation that we've possibly got. We're going to see the hands are then quite a lot lower. And that's probably going to create a completely different shot shape. We're going to see this probably in to out downswing. And we're going to have the low point more behind the golf ball. If we then go and show you that style of swing, you'll then see a shot shape that probably works a little bit more like this. There we go, a little bit more that way. Now you can hear in the sound of the strike there that I hit the ground first. So I've lost a little bit of low point stuff. And then I've created this draw shape. I'll see on a day-to-day both styles of these happening. And people do good jobs at adjusting to it, right? But if you want to work on both of those, there's a simple drill you can do both ends of the scale just to help that out. If you go into setup, if you're a person that gets the upper swing center, the sternum ahead of the lower swing center into the backswing, then we need to get you obviously changing that a little bit more the opposite way. So you pop the club down, your trowel foot, pop your club across the chest, and as you work to the top, we want to keep the hips very stable, so we keep them where they are. We might even bump them towards target to help us get this tilt started. And then all you need to do is align the club you've got across your chest to the club you've got along the ground. And you can see already from there, I've created a completely different shape to this. So if we now give that a go, so we've got set up here, we're going to bump that hip, and as we bump that hip, we're going to align the chest with the club that's on the ground. That should create a little bit more of a neutral ball flight for us. Looks like he had a half decent start line. Not bad. 5 yards offline, pretty good. Good strike. Now if we go the opposite end of the scale, where we got this chest that works too far across the opposite way, we then swap the position of the club. Now you can definitely still keep the hip bump because we get that low point in a good spot, right? But then from there, as we turn to the top, we're going to feel like we align the club a lot more towards the left side. And you can see how my chest hasn't worked across. I've probably stacked them on top of each other really nicely there. And that then allows me to create more of a rotation downswing, and that will neutralize the ball flight as well from the opposite style. So we give that a go. We got this hip bump, and we're going to feel like we align the chest a little bit more to the lead side. So, and again, very good strike, very, very neutral flight again, only a couple of yards offline, but it's such a simple way of mixing the two together. Now, ideally, in an ideal world, you probably want the sternum to always sit just slightly behind the hips. That way we're shifted the weight, we've got a little bit more of a path that works from the inside, and we can create those draw shapes a little bit more. So how do we do that one where we just create that slight little draw? So we want to stack the body, the two centers on top of each other from the start position. So if we can go to setup, and we adding this bump at setup, you can see I've got the hip just slightly ahead of the sternum, and that's the position I want to keep the spine in the whole time in the golf swing. So once I've got this position where the hip is bumped ahead of the sternum, all I've got to do, I'm going to feel that there's a little bit more weight on my left side, all I've got to do from there is rotate, staying in the position I've got now. So a little bit more like this. The start line was good. There's your little draw pretty much the whole time, 4 yards offline, and there's a good little draw shape. Straight numbers haven't come up, but that shows you exactly what we're trying to do. It can be as simple as just setting it up from setup, but if you're drastically one way or the other way, you're going to have to do a little bit of work in swing to get it there. But I would always suggest that you start with a little bit of hips leading sternum in the golf swing. That gives us this spine tilt that allows us to deliver the club a little bit more on plane, a little bit shallower, and hit some really nice golf shots. But you from here, you can still move out of those positions. So you have to be very aware of what the swing centers are doing within that swing. So let's give that one more go. We got our original setup position. We're going to work into that tilted spine position, and from there we're just going to maintain the setup position, turn around it. Yeah, start line was pretty good, face is pretty good, and we pretty much hit that dead on the line. It's as simple as that, everybody. I hope that's helped you understand where the swing centers need to be in your golf swing. If you've got one extreme or the other, work on those with that simple drill where the club is on the ground. If you feel like it's pretty neutral, get that preset in place and then turn around it, and that will allow you to hit those little soft draws like the one we hit there. If you like this video, please give it a like, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you very soon for the next one.